Have you ever wondered if there's one small habit, something so subtle it almost slips beneath your radar, that could quietly extend your life and transform the way you age? We've been led to believe that reaching 100 is mostly about having good genes or sheer luck. But time and research tell a different story. In reality, those who live vibrant, independent lives well into their 90s and beyond often share a handful of deeply rooted daily habits. These aren't miracle cures or extreme regimens. They're gentle patterns, woven into the fabric of their everyday lives, that protect them from the inside out. What's truly inspiring is that these habits aren't complicated, expensive, or out of reach. They're not reserved for the health obsessed or the genetically blessed. In fact, many of them are so simple you could start practicing them today, whether you're 65, 75, or anywhere in between. And the earlier you begin, the more profound the effects become. In this video, we'll uncover 7 key habits that keep resurfacing in the lives of those who defy age. Not just living longer, but living with energy, clarity, and meaning. These aren't surface level tricks. They reflect a lifestyle rooted in balance. How these people eat, how they rest, how they move their bodies, and how they protect their peace of mind in a noisy world. What makes these habits so powerful is their quiet nature. They don't demand drastic change. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine or commit to a strict diet or workout program. Instead, they gently fit into the flow of your day, like sunlight through a window or the rhythm of your breath. And over time, they build a foundation that supports your heart, sharpens your mind, strengthens your bones, and lifts your spirit. As we walk through each of these practices together, you'll begin to see the hidden architecture behind a long, healthy, and purpose-filled life. This isn't just about living longer, it's about living more fully. If you've ever felt unsure about what truly makes a difference as you age, or if you've wondered why some people remain vibrant while others seem to fade too soon, this exploration may change your perspective in powerful ways. So take a deep breath. This isn't just a list of suggestions. It's an invitation to rediscover the beauty of daily life and how simple choices, made consistently, can unlock a future filled with strength, peace, and joy. Let's begin. Number 1, the sacred rhythm of rest. There's something almost sacred about a person who honors their own rhythm. Among those who live into their 90s and hundreds with strength, clarity, and grace, one of the most consistent yet underrated habits they share is this. They go to bed and wake up at the same time every single day. No matter the season, no matter the occasion. They don't let the chaos of life or the temptation of late-night distractions break that flow. To outsiders, it might seem rigid or unnecessary, but to the body, this habit is a quiet form of devotion, a signal of safety, a source of deep internal order. Your body doesn't run on randomness, it runs on rhythm. At the heart of that rhythm lies your circadian clock, a delicate internal system that tells your body when to rest, when to digest, when to repair, and when to rise again with new energy. When you maintain a consistent sleep-wake cycle, you aren't just creating structure, you're sending a powerful message to your entire system. You're safe here. You know what to expect. You can let go. This internal stability begins to affect everything. Your brain knows precisely when to release melatonin to help you fall asleep naturally. Your heart slows down in a peaceful, predictable way. Your digestive system gets into sync, working more efficiently. Your liver and kidneys repair themselves while you sleep. Even your skin cells begin to regenerate with more precision. Your immune system recalibrates, and your mind processes the emotional weight of the day. Sleep in this light becomes more than rest. It becomes restoration. This isn't about achieving some magical 8-hour sleep window every night. That's not realistic, and it's not even necessary. Many people who live long and well report occasional awakenings at night or short midday naps that help them recharge. But what they do maintain, without fail, is consistency. Their bodies know when it's time to begin the descent into rest and when it's time to rise. That consistency is like a lullaby. The body learns to hum to itself, every evening, every morning. Let me tell you about Arthur. He was 87 when I met him, but he carried himself like someone who had made peace with time, calm, confident, light on his feet. There was something about his presence that immediately drew you in. He told me, "I've been getting up at 6:30 a.m. since I turned 40. Doesn't matter if I had a bad night's sleep or stayed up too late. 6:30, I'm up. My body just knows." And when he said it, you didn't doubt him. Because there was a clarity in his eyes, a brightness in his posture, a rhythm in the way he moved. You could feel that decades of self-discipline had quietly built a fortress inside him. People often treat sleep like an afterthought, something to squeeze in between everything else. But for those who age well, sleep is not an interruption to life. It's the ground beneath it, a daily act of coming home, of allowing the world to pause, of letting the body do what it was designed to do: restore, rebuild, renew. Think of your body like a garden. If you want it to thrive, you don't pour water at random or give it bursts of sunlight one week and none the next. A garden needs steady light, consistent nourishment, and gentle, repeated care. Your body and mind work the same way. A regular bedtime and wake-up time, honored each day, is like giving your internal garden the rhythm it needs to bloom. And no, you don't have to be perfect. Life will throw off your schedule from time to time. That's okay. But if you're constantly staying up late some nights and sleeping in on others, your body never really knows what to expect. And when the body is confused, it becomes tense, defensive, stressed. Over time, that confusion can erode health, not with a bang, but slowly, in silence. The people who live the longest often don't obsess over how many hours they're sleeping. What they've learned, perhaps intuitively, is that predictability is power. Their bodies trust them. Their organs know when it's time to rest. Their cells are no longer running in panic mode. Everything functions more smoothly because nothing is constantly catching up. So if you're looking for one place to begin, one quiet act of care that doesn't require a gym, a diet, or a therapist, start here. With something so simple, it almost feels too easy to matter. But it matters deeply. Give your body a rhythm, not for perfection, not for performance, but for peace. Let sleep be your sanctuary, and watch what happens when you finally let your body exhale, every night at the same time. Number 2, the wisdom of stopping at enough, a gentle discipline that rewires the body and soul. Longevity isn't always found in laboratories or hidden in the fine print of nutrition labels. Sometimes it reveals itself in the quietest choices. One of the most elegant and consistent patterns among people who live well into their 90s and beyond, those whose eyes still carry light and whose steps still carry purpose, is how they eat, and more precisely, how they stop eating. It's not about chasing the latest health craze. It's not about restriction or guilt. It's about tuning in to a subtle but powerful signal, the body's whisper that says, "That's enough." In Okinawa, a region celebrated for its high number of centenarians, there is a phrase passed down like a sacred thread through generations: "Hara hachi bu." It means, eat until you are 80% full, not until your plate is empty, not until your stomach aches, not until your emotions are soothed, just 80%, just enough. And then you stop. At first, this idea can feel almost too simple. But what it unlocks inside the body is extraordinary. When you stop eating before you feel full, you free your body from the burden of constant digestion. Your stomach doesn't stretch into discomfort. Your pancreas isn't pushed to pump out excess insulin. Your bloodstream remains calm, not flooded with glucose. Your liver works efficiently, not frantically. You give your body space to restore its balance instead of pushing it into overdrive. And beneath the surface, something even more remarkable happens. Your body begins to heal. Cells that would have been focused on digesting are now available to support immune defense, cellular repair, and brain clarity. Inflammation begins to ease. Energy returns. Your internal systems begin to hum in quiet synchrony. You feel lighter, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. You're not dragged down by heaviness. You're carried forward by ease. Those who practice this habit don't speak of hunger or lack. They speak of awareness. They speak of learning to listen again. I once had the honor of sharing tea with a woman named Elaine. She was 84, sharp as ever, her laughter full bodied and free. She told me, I used to eat like I was racing time. I'd clean every plate, no matter how I felt. But one day I realized my body didn't need all that. It needed kindness. I started listening. When I felt 80% full, I stopped, and everything changed. My digestion, my sleep, even my mood. I didn't feel heavy anymore. I felt clear. That clarity isn't just a result of what you eat, it's the outcome of how you treat your body while eating. And that kind of mindfulness isn't an overnight transformation. It's a muscle you build, one bite at a time. To begin, you don't need rules. You need rhythm. You don't need punishment. You need patience. Try slowing down during your meals. Put your fork down between bites. Chew fully. Let yourself experience the taste, the texture, the warmth. Food is not just fuel, it's a relationship. And like any healthy relationship, it flourishes with listening. Start noticing the moment hunger begins to fade, rather than waiting for the warning sign of discomfort. The body has a way of speaking softly at first. The more we listen, the less it has to shout. You'll notice that over time, your portions shrink on their own. You'll crave differently, more intentionally, less impulsively, and you'll begin to feel something rare in modern life: balance. Eating until you're 80% full is not about denial. It's about discernment. It's not about less. It's about enough. In a world that constantly urges us to consume more, this practice becomes an act of quiet rebellion, a daily discipline of grace, a way to say to yourself, I deserve peace, not pressure. I honor my needs, not my impulses. The people who live the longest are not chasing longevity. They are simply living in harmony with themselves. And in that harmony, they leave behind the need to overfill, to overindulge, to override the wisdom already alive within their bodies. So the next time you sit down to eat, don't ask, am I full yet? Instead, ask, can I stop here and still feel nourished? That small shift could become one of the most powerful transformations you'll ever make, not just for your health, but for your entire way of being. Number 3, the lifeline of connection: how deep relationships quietly protect the body, mind, and soul. There's something profoundly human about our need to be seen, heard, and held, not just physically, but emotionally. And when we look into the lives of those who live the longest, not just long in years, but full in spirit, we find a quiet, consistent thread running through them all. They stay connected. They don't isolate. They don't disappear into the background of life. They remain part of something larger than themselves. Sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's lifelong friends. Sometimes it's a faith group, a book club, or even a neighbor they wave to each morning. But in every case, they've kept their hearts open to connection. And that simple, powerful choice, repeated across decades, does more than comfort the soul. It strengthens the body. It protects the brain. It shields the heart, literally and emotionally. Connection isn't just emotional support, it's biological medicine. When you feel deeply bonded to another person, your body begins to exhale in ways that science can now measure. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to retreat. Your blood vessels relax. Your heart beats more smoothly. Your immune system becomes more resilient, ready to protect you instead of being hijacked by chronic tension. Your brain floods with oxytocin, a hormone known for its calming, heart-opening effects. This chemical doesn't just make you feel good. It makes your entire system more balanced, more adaptive, and more alive. And here's what's most remarkable. The healing power of connection doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic displays. Sometimes it's the quietest exchanges that make the deepest impact: a shared meal, a hand on your shoulder, a moment of laughter that lifts the weight of the day. These small, regular doses of togetherness are what strengthen our internal architecture, buffering us against the wear and tear of time. Conversely, the absence of connection can become a silent, invisible burden. Chronic loneliness, a state not of physical solitude, but of emotional disconnection, has been shown to increase the risk of heart disease, cognitive decline, depression, and even early death. And the tragedy is, This kind of loneliness often hides in plain sight. It looks like independence. It wears the mask of being fine, but underneath is a hunger to be known, to matter, to belong. That's why those who continue to engage with others, who have someone to call, someone to sit beside, someone who asks how their day was, often carry a spark that others don't. Their lives are stitched together not by routines or discipline alone, but by moments of human warmth that give their days meaning and shape. I remember Harold. He was 86, and when I met him, he had just lost his wife, the love of his life. After she passed, he told me he felt like he was fading. "It's like the world stopped turning," he said. He moved through the days like a ghost in his own home. Meals had no flavor. Music no longer stirred anything in him. But then, almost without planning, he began to meet a group of old friends every Tuesday morning at the local coffee shop. They didn't talk about anything profound, just life, small talk, bad jokes, familiar faces. After a few months, I saw him again. His eyes had changed. They were brighter, steadier. "You know," he said, "I started smiling again, not because something big happened, just because I didn't feel invisible anymore." That's the moment I understood. Visibility, emotional visibility, is a form of vitality. To be acknowledged, even in the smallest way, is to be reminded that you are still here, still part of the story, still worth listening to. Relationships, especially as we grow older, are not just a luxury. They are a lifeline. They give structure to our days. They offer laughter when things get heavy. They bring back memories and help us create new ones. They turn an ordinary Tuesday into a reason to get out of bed. They hold us steady when life begins to shift beneath our feet. So if you're someone who has drifted into isolation, not by choice, but by the slow erosion of time and circumstance, know this: it's never too late to reach back out. One phone call, one text, one walk with a neighbor, one invitation accepted instead of declined. These moments add up. They become rituals, and rituals become lifelines. You don't need dozens of people. One honest, present friend is enough. A circle of 3 who really know you can be more powerful than a crowd that doesn't. What matters is not how many, but how real. Because when everything else in life becomes uncertain, when bodies change, when careers fade, when routines are disrupted, it's love, presence, and human connection that remain the most stabilizing, most healing forces of all. Number 4, the sacred simplicity of daily movement, a lifelong dance between body and time. If there is a secret to aging well that hides in plain sight, it might be this: movement. Not the kind shouted from treadmills or counted in reps, but a quieter, more human kind. The kind found in gardens, in kitchens, in the slow grace of a morning stroll. The kind that doesn't scream for attention but whispers its impact across decades. Among those who live to 90, 100, and beyond, daily movement is less a task and more a rhythm, woven into the fabric of life like breath. You don't have to run marathons to stay healthy into your later years. You don't need to powerlift or commit to grueling routines. The long-lived often do something far simpler, but far more sustainable. They walk. They stretch. They rise and move through their days with intention. They stay in conversation with their bodies, not through intensity, but through continuity. They move through the house while tidying up, bend to tend a flower, take slow walks through familiar neighborhoods, or dance a little while waiting for tea to steep. Their lives are filled with these quiet gestures of vitality, gentle, reliable, restorative. This kind of movement doesn't strain the body. It supports it. It keeps the blood flowing, the joints lubricated, the muscles active, and the bones responsive to weight and pressure, preserving density, flexibility, and strength. It stabilizes the spine, strengthens posture, and protects against the falls that so often become the beginning of decline in older age. But the magic doesn't stop at the physical. When you move, your brain responds like a tree reaching toward light. Oxygen floods in, neural connections stay sharper, mood lifts, fog clears, energy stirs, motion signals to the body. We are alive and engaged, and the body responds by staying vibrant, steady, and alert. Movement is also memory. Your body remembers how to be in the world, and when you use it, even gently, you're reinforcing your ability to stay upright, confident, and free, not just in motion, but in identity. The more you move, the more you retain your sense of autonomy, your connection to space, to balance, to the rhythm of life itself. I once met two women, Betty and Carol, both in their late 70s. They had been walking the same loop in their neighborhood every morning for years. Rain, snow, sunshine. Their walk wasn't fast. It wasn't competitive. It was, in their words, a moving meditation. Betty said, "When I skip a day, I feel it. My knees talk back and my head fills with fog. So we just keep walking." That simple daily loop wasn't just about exercise, it was about identity, about continuity, about being in relationship with life. That's the essence of this habit. It's not about athleticism, it's about rhythm, about telling your body, "I'm still here. I still need you. Keep going." Even if you struggle with pain, limited range of motion, or balance issues, there are always ways to move. Chair exercises, gentle stretches in the morning sun, aquatic therapy that supports the joints while allowing fluid movement. Even standing up and sitting down, slowly and mindfully, can become a practice in strength and grace. What matters most isn't how far you go or how many steps you count. It's that you honor the fundamental truth that bodies were meant to move. Muscles were meant to contract and release. Joints were meant to rotate and carry weight. The breath was meant to deepen and guide the pace. Stillness, when extended too long, becomes its own form of erosion. The body, when left unused, doesn't simply pause. It begins to forget. It tightens, weakens, recoils. But when you move, no matter how slowly, you are reminding your body that it is still in the story, that there is still purpose, still movement, still life. The people who live longest often understand this, even if they've never read a study or owned a fitness tracker. They know, instinctively, that moving their body is like turning on a light in every room of their house. It wakes things up. It brings warmth. It opens space. And so they move, not as an obligation, but as an offering. Not for perfection, but for preservation. Not to impress anyone, but to remain in relationship with their own physical form. They move because they can, and because they want to keep being able to. So, walk the block. Stretch your arms to the sky. Put on music and sway. Walk while you talk on the phone. Let movement be your companion, not for weight loss or discipline, but for freedom. Because in the end, the body you move is the body that stays with you, stronger, calmer, still dancing no matter how many years have passed. Number 5, the quiet power of purpose, a reason to wake, a reason to continue. Longevity is not merely a matter of the body, it is sustained by the soul. While diets, sleep, and movement support the vessel, it is purpose that fuels the spirit within. And when you study the lives of those who live well into their 90s and hundreds, those who remain mentally sharp, emotionally present, and physically engaged, you begin to notice something quietly powerful. They still feel needed. These individuals don't simply pass time. They participate in it. They wake up each morning with a reason to rise, not because the world demands it, but because something or someone still tugs at their heart. It might be subtle, it might be small, but it is real. And that sense of meaning becomes a thread that ties their days together. For some, purpose comes from their faith, a spiritual relationship that offers rhythm and reverence to the passing of time. For others, it's found in routines so ordinary they could be missed, tending to plants, filling a bird feeder, writing down thoughts in a journal, or preparing a morning meal for someone they love. It's not about productivity. It's about intention, the act of choosing to engage with the day ahead. Purpose, no matter how modest it appears, gives the mind a job worth doing. It offers direction to our thoughts, structure to our emotions, and stability to our days. Biologically, it helps regulate our stress levels. It strengthens the immune system. It promotes better sleep, steadier mood, and sharper memory. But more than any of that, purpose anchors us to life. It reminds us we're still part of the fabric of the world, not a bystander, but a thread. I remember meeting a man named Samuel. He was 88, and every morning he'd walk the same quiet stretch of road near his home. But he wasn't just walking for his health. He carried a small trash bag and picked up litter, bottle caps, candy wrappers, odds and ends left behind by strangers. I've been doing this for 12 years, he told me. It's just something I can do. People wave or say good morning. I like that. He wasn't chasing productivity or praise. He was participating, making his corner of the world a little more cared for. And in return, the world gave him something too: connection, recognition, purpose. What struck me most about Samuel wasn't his habit, but his tone. He spoke like someone who understood the quiet power of being useful. He wasn't clinging to relevance. He was embodying it through presence, through action, through care. Purpose doesn't need to be profound to be powerful. It doesn't need to change the world. It only needs to change your relationship with the day. It could live in a story you share, a recipe you pass down, a letter you finally write, a dog you walk, a friend you check on, a child you teach, even a memory you protect by telling it again to someone who's never heard it before. And if you find yourself unsure, lost in the stillness of a chapter where familiar roles have faded, know this: purpose is not something reserved for the lucky. It is something that can be reclaimed, rediscovered, even recreated. Start with the smallest questions. What do I care about? What still sparks something in me? What feels unfinished, untended, unloved? Purpose doesn't always arrive with clarity. Sometimes it begins as a whisper, buried under years of repetition or loneliness. But if you listen closely and take even one small step toward what matters to you, purpose stirs. And with it comes a sense of direction, a gentle momentum, a reminder that your life is still in motion. People who live long lives do not simply survive, they belong to something: a task, a relationship, a role, a belief, a rhythm, something that gives weight to their hours, something that reflects back to them. You still have something to offer. You don't need a mission, you need meaning. And meaning can be found in small acts, repeated with love. So whether your purpose today is to write, or walk, or call, or care, honor it. That thread of meaning may be the strongest cord holding your life's fabric together, quietly resisting time and stitching your presence into the world with every passing day. Number 6, clearing the weight, choosing breath, clarity, and renewal over smoke and numbness. Of all the habits found in the lives of people who live well into their 90s and beyond, few are as striking in their consistency or as quietly transformative as this one. They protect the systems of the body by avoiding cigarettes and drinking alcohol only with rare intention. They aren't necessarily rigid or extreme. Many have shared a toast or enjoyed a celebratory glass of wine. But what they almost never do is turn these substances into a daily routine. They know, either through experience, instinct, or quiet observation, that what we take in habitually shapes not only our physical body, but our clarity, energy, and ability to remain fully present in life. Smoking, perhaps more than any other habit, imposes a full-body cost. It's not just about the lungs, though they are the most obvious battleground. Smoke enters the mouth and throat, irritating delicate tissues. It seeps into the bloodstream, constricting vessels, starving the heart and brain of vital oxygen. Bones become brittle, wounds take longer to heal, skin thins and wrinkles prematurely. Even the gums recede and the voice hardens. Over time, the body begins to show signs of a fire it didn't light, but has been quietly fighting for years. And this fire doesn't confine itself to one system. It spreads. It accelerates aging from the inside out, and it dulls the vitality we often take for granted: the simple joy of deep breath, the ease of a strong stride, the energy that carries us from morning to night without resistance. Alcohol, too, wears a more elegant disguise, often presented as a symbol of celebration, sophistication, or relaxation. A glass with dinner, a toast at a wedding, a quiet sip at the end of a long day. For many, it starts small, harmless, even pleasant. But over time, especially as the body ages, alcohol becomes more than a mood softener. It becomes a slow-acting dimmer switch on clarity, balance, and sleep. The liver, once quick and efficient, processes alcohol more slowly. The brain grows more sensitive to its effects. Sleep becomes lighter, less restorative. Emotional resilience can waver, and when that one glass becomes a habit rather than a choice, its impact moves quietly from background to foreground. The very systems that aging bodies rely on to stay steady, nervous system regulation, organ repair, hormonal balance, are all made more fragile. But here's the part we don't hear often enough. The body is not a judge, it's a healer. Even if you've smoked for decades or sipped wine with dinner every night for years, your body, if given the chance, will begin to repair. Not overnight, not completely, but meaningfully. When you stop smoking, even later in life, the lungs start to clear, blood flow improves, oxygen reaches the brain and heart more easily. Within weeks, energy begins to shift. You don't just breathe better, you live better. And when alcohol is reduced or removed, sleep becomes deeper, mornings become sharper. The fog that once dulled thought begins to lift. Balance improves, moods stabilize, even digestion becomes smoother. The body, no matter how old, responds to being unburdened with relief and gratitude. I once met a woman named Louise. She was 81, soft-spoken, but sharp as ever. She told me, "I used to pour a glass of wine every evening. It helped me wind down. But I started waking up tired, scattered, like I'd never truly rested. One day I tried something different. I made tea instead, something warm but gentle. Within a week, I was sleeping deeper. My head felt clearer. I didn't think it would make a difference, not at my age, but it did." Louise wasn't looking to give something up. She was looking to get something back, her clarity, her energy, her presence. And the change she made wasn't a sacrifice. It was a return to herself. This is the deeper truth about letting go of habits that no longer serve us. It's not about restriction. It's about reclaiming space. Space for breath, for lightness, for movement, for calm. When you remove what dulls the edges of your awareness, you begin to feel more deeply, sleep more fully, and connect more honestly to your own rhythms. And if there are habits you've held on to for years, habits that once offered comfort but now feel more like crutches, it's not too late to step away. You don't need shame to change. You only need desire and a willingness to believe that your body is still listening. It is. Your lungs are still capable of clearing. Your liver is still filtering. Your mind is still reaching for clarity. Your heart is still beating, hoping you'll give it a little more room, a little more care, a little more breath. Letting go doesn't mean loss. It often means rediscovery, of mornings that feel cleaner, of moments that feel sharper, of a body that, even in its later years, still knows how to renew itself. Number 7, the spark that never fades, keeping the mind young through daily learning and lifelong curiosity. One of the most quietly remarkable traits shared by people who age with grace, those who live into their late 90s and beyond with their minds still agile and alert, isn't found in their genetics, supplements, or physical routines. It's found in their mindset. They remain, above all else, curious. These are individuals who, despite the decades behind them, continue to lean forward into life. Their eyes still widen with interest. Their minds still reach toward new ideas, even if their bodies have slowed. They read not to escape, but to understand. They ask questions not to prove anything, but to learn. They explore new hobbies not because they must, but because something inside them still stirs when faced with the unfamiliar. That curiosity becomes a form of internal movement, a way to keep the brain flexible, responsive, alive. It's easy to imagine that the brain, like a machine, wears down with use. But in truth, it wears down with lack of use. When you stop challenging your mind, when your thoughts stop stretching toward the unknown, the neural connections that once fired with ease begin to dull. Memory falters, mood flattens, the edges of awareness begin to blur. But when you feed your mind regularly, even with small daily efforts, you help build what researchers call cognitive reserve, a network of mental strength and adaptability that acts like a buffer against age-related decline. It's a bit like building a savings account for your brain, so that when challenges arise, forgetfulness, confusion, or even early signs of cognitive wear, you have something to draw from. A reservoir of resilience. And the beauty of this habit is that it doesn't require academic degrees, formal lessons, or complicated routines. It can be woven into the smallest rituals of daily life. It might look like reading a book that pushes your thinking a little further, learning the rules to a new card game, trying a new recipe without checking the instructions every 5 seconds, studying the map instead of letting GPS decide. It might be learning to play the piano with stiff fingers, taking on a new language, or simply sitting with someone who challenges your ideas and listening, not to reply, but to grow. I once met a man named Carl. He was 90, with a voice full of gravel and kindness. Every morning, like clockwork, he read the local newspaper, every article, even the ones he didn't fully understand. He kept a pen in hand, underlining unfamiliar words. Later in the day, he'd look them up, jot the meanings down in a small notebook he carried in his back pocket, and try using them in conversation. "I like giving my brain something to chew on," he said, with a twinkle that made it impossible not to smile. Carl wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't trying to hold on to youth. He was trying to stay alive, not just physically, but mentally. And that effort showed. His words were sharp, his humor quick, his ideas fresh. He didn't talk like someone living at the end of life. He spoke like someone still living through it. When the brain is engaged, the entire self lifts with it. You stand taller. Your speech becomes more precise. You feel more in control of your choices. You become more emotionally present, more intellectually curious, more spiritually connected to the moment you're living in. And if you're someone who hasn't felt that spark in a while, someone who has felt your world shrink or your thoughts grow repetitive, know this: your brain still wants to stretch. It still wants to learn. It still wants to play. It doesn't care how old you are. What it cares about is stimulation, challenge, novelty, growth. And it will reward those things with sharper thinking, improved memory, greater emotional stability, and even renewed energy. You don't need to become an expert in anything. You only need to remain a student of something: a subject, a skill, a story, or a simple unanswered question. The act of learning keeps the internal world vibrant, no matter what's happening in the external one. So, pull out that dusty book. Pick up that puzzle you left unfinished. Take the class you thought you were too old for. Try the recipe written in a language you barely remember. Call someone who thinks differently and let them change your mind. Or like Carl, find a word you've never heard before, look it up, and use it like it belongs to you. Because it does. Growth belongs to you. Still, always. Your brain is not done becoming. And as long as it's engaged, the rest of you, your body, your spirit, your days, will stay in motion too. Not racing forward, just reaching. Gently, curiously, endlessly forward. These 7 habits are not shortcuts or quick fixes. They aren't miracles wrapped in urgency. They are quiet, deliberate patterns, gentle rhythms that, when repeated over time, begin to shape the architecture of a steadier, more grounded life. They do not shout for attention. They whisper. They weave themselves into your mornings, your meals, your steps, your thoughts, until one day you realize they've become part of your foundation. You don't have to take them all on at once. You don't need to do them flawlessly. In fact, you're not asked for perfection. You're simply invited to begin. Maybe your beginning is a walk after dinner, not to burn calories, but to breathe. Maybe it's choosing to eat just a little less, to feel lighter, more in tune. Maybe it's picking up the phone more often to call someone you've been meaning to reach. The change doesn't need to be dramatic. It only needs to feel real. It only needs to belong to you. Because the deeper goal is not just to stretch the number of years ahead, it's to fill the ones you already have with something richer. More clarity, more connection, mornings that feel spacious, evenings that arrive with peace, days that hold meaning not because they are packed, but because they are yours, lived on your terms, in your rhythm. And perhaps most important of all, a life that still feels like it's unfolding. A life where you are not fading into the background, but continuing to shape your own story, even if it's with quieter strokes. A life that reminds you, again and again, that your presence still matters, and that there are still seasons waiting for you to arrive fully. So pause, just for a moment, and ask yourself, which of these habits already lives somewhere in your day, and which one is waiting for you to begin? Your answer may be smaller than you expect, and yet it may be the thread that carries you gently into what comes next, with more steadiness, more grace, and more joy than you thought possible. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, we'd be honored to have you as part of this growing community. Go ahead and click like if something here spoke to you. And if you'd like more content like this, filled with gentle guidance and thoughtful insight, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We're here to walk this journey with you, one meaningful step at a time.